good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, you thirsty bunch of beer drinkers, whenever and wherever you're tuning in from. Today on the pod, I'm welcoming someone that has claimed that he is, and I quote, crazy. He forgot to have his head examined. And he said that in reference to running a bar. And he finished that quote with saying, fortunately for me, my stubbornness and stupidity has paid off. That person is the one and only Milos Kral, owner and operator of Milos Craft Beer Emporium in London, Ontario. Milos, a man with a lot of opinions about the craft industry, who also has a lot of stories, and they are all fascinating. He's here in the hot seat, and I'm really looking forward to getting into them all. But before we get there, I'll have to say this about Milos, even if he wasn't in the room with me right now. I would stand to argue that no one person has done more for the London, Ontario beer scene since the days of John Labatt himself than Milos has. He's created a place for beer lovers to enjoy from all parts of the province, a place people add to their bucket beer list. Why? Because he curates a dynamic beer menu, supports local, and puts the customer first and foremost. He's propped up and supported startup breweries and has done so while continuing to work with the old guard of craft. And he does that with one goal in mind, to be the best at what he does day in and day out while having a fun time doing it. He's also one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to knowing what is happening in the province's beer scene. He follows the news, tastes all sorts of beer, the good and the bad, and creates relationships with those that share similar ambitions that he believes in. He creates events that no one is doing, brings breweries and brewery reps together to get in front of customers, and constantly evolves with today's marketplace. So we're going to discuss all that and more, but first, as is customary, I'm going to crack open a can of something familiar, Great Lakes Premium Lager, and hear an ad from our sponsors, ourselves, GLB. Hang tight, we'll be right back with Mr. Milos Kral, the king of the beer emporium.
There appears to be only one line on this sheet. $50 for a case of Great Lakes Premium Lager. That's it? That's the ad? Okay. Cases of Great Lakes Premium Lager are only $50 every day of the year.
Hello there, Milos.
Well, hello, Troy.
Welcome to Between Two Fermenters. There's a couple beers in front of you. Mm-hmm. You get to pick which one you want.
I do.
You do. Go nuts.
Aren't I lucky? Okay, how about this Sunnyside Session IPA?
And the crack. There we go. Okay. That is the official sound of let's get this going.
Okay, let me drink first.
Okay. While you're taking a drink, I'm going to ask you the first hard-hitting question. We brewed a beer today at the brewery.
We did.
Tell us about it. Did you have fun? What was the beer? When will people be able to try it?
I thought I was going to have fun, but instead of it, those motherfuckers made me work. So, it was fun. Yes, it was awesome.
And what'd you do while you were there? Like, what did we brew?
Well, I had this idea of doing a traditional Czech lager with Czech ingredients that I haven't seen anybody doing on this continent yet. Might be wrong, but anyways, it's a linden bloom flavored lager. Because linden tree is a national tree of Czech Kingdom, so I thought it would be appropriate to do something a little different.
I will admit, when you first messaged with that idea, I thought you were joking, but then once we looked it up, we were like, oh no, he's serious. So we're all in on this now.
I don't know how to joke.
So we brewed it today, and it's going to be available in probably 6 to 8 weeks, and people in London, Ontario at Milos Craft Beer Emporium will be able to sample it.
I definitely look forward to tapping that.
Yes, and so everyone listening, you'll have to wait for news of when that'll be available. But it was a fun day with Milos at GLB today. You have one of the most recognizable names in the industry, Milos Kral. One mentions your name to beer people. Like I would say, hey, do you know Milos? And they instantly know who you are and where you're located. And that's all thanks to your establishment and your big personality. But I want people to really get to know who you are today. So can you tell me and can you tell everyone, who is Milos Kral?
I'm still trying to figure it out, man. Well, who am I? I'm a crazy Czech guy who...
Because I was wondering if you're actually Czech or if that was a really good accent, but thanks for clearing that up.
I'm actually Canadian. So, yes, both. Proud of my Czech heritage. I was born in Czech Republic, in town of Liberec, grew up in city of Prague, and came to Canada when I was 29.
Okay, and you came at 29, and you came to Canada, and you settled in London, Ontario, instead of, you could have went to, Halifax, Toronto.
I could have gone to lots of places, yes.
So why London?
That's a good question. I wanted to go to Vancouver, actually.
Okay.
And thanks to, as you mentioned earlier, my stupidity, I kind of fucked up. So...
Well, London's a far away
here
from
am I,
Vancouver.
Ontario.
Yeah. Were you looking at the wrong map, or?
Well, I ended up in Ontario. We spent 8 months in Toronto.
Okay.
3 days in Montreal before that. And when I realized how far it is to fly from Toronto to Prague and how much it costs, I said, well, Vancouver is much further. It's going to be much more expensive and much longer. I don't want to do that. Only later, when I really settled in Ontario, I realized that from Vancouver, they fly over the North Pole. So it's only about an hour longer flight than flying from Toronto. By the time I already liked it here. Don't know why, but yeah, so that's the story.
So what pushed you to London?
Oh, well, actually, after 8 months in Toronto, I spent 5 years in North Bay. Mm-hmm. And, my kids were growing up and they were going to go, hopefully, to school. I didn't have any money, so supporting them going somewhere else didn't make sense. So London kind of logic, college, university, theater, orchestra, little culture, smaller town. I didn't want them to grow up in Toronto.
Okay.
So London won.
London was calling.
That's right.
So how did you end up getting into the bar and restaurant scene? And was that in motion when you landed in Toronto or North Bay, or was that something that happened in London?
That's all I know.
That's all you know?
That's all I know. And I don't know much.
So let's talk about the London years. So you got to London, and when did the craft love start happening? What was it in London that drove you to where you are today?
Well, it was very simple. A managing place called Marienbad and Chaucer's, and there were some people I knew that were coming over from Toronto to visit. And I'm thinking, where can I take them? That's different. That's really something nice and different and engaging. And I didn't feel like there was anything there that they couldn't find in Toronto. So that made me think about a few things. And it all started with this idea. We had 40 beers from 40 countries. I just went and raided LCBO and found 40 beers from 40 different countries. And in the process of hunting stuff, I got first in touch with a couple of people who were importing beers from Belgium and elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And one of those people was repping some Ontario beer, and that's where it started.
And that's where it started. So what year would that have been?
That would be somewhere around 2000.
2000. So the very early days.
Very early days, yeah. And then, eventually I tried a couple Ontario beers, and I like the idea of actually knowing who am I dealing with.
Okay. So when you were in Prague, and did you develop, might be a stupid question because we know the Czech like to drink, and they like to drink good beer. So did you have a passion for supporting local from the Prague days, or was that something that was bred when you were seeking out those 40 beers from 40 countries?
Well, yes and no. Yes to idea that we always had fresh food on the table. So I always, having something, knowing where your food comes from, to me always made sense. Coming here, what sparked it even probably a little bit more was the idea how bland, void of personality, and absolutely ruthless the world of the macro beer was. How me as a manager in a bar or restaurant was nobody unless I sold 50,000 kegs for Labatt's, Molson's, or Guinness. Totally, like you're just a number, you don't count. So then I meet people who say, "Oh, thank you very much for buying 30 liters of my beer, man. I really appreciate it." I said, "What am I doing? Why don't I support small guys like me who will actually, we can help each other?"
You're supporting the community, you're supporting your neighbors, and then they in turn support their neighbors and the community as well. So you were running the program, the beer program at that location, and you did that, you said, so that was around 2000. When did you venture off to do your own thing?
That happened in 2012.
And that's at the location that you're in.
That's where
today.
I'm now, So I spent... I don't know. Hold on. 95 to 2006, I think 11 years I managed the place, and I started to do craft beer there, and it was lots of fun. And I remember it was somewhere around 04 or 05, I reached out to OCB, which at that time had, I think, 27 members.
Yeah, it was brand new back then.
And I sent them an email and said, "Hey, listen, I'm this crazy Czech guy from London, Ontario, and I was hoping you could tell your members that I would fucking love to sell your beer." And they replied to me saying, "Thank you very much for your interest, but we don't do that. However, you're welcome to reach out to each of our members individually." Fuck off. And I went on the days off. I drove around in my beat up car and I was begging brewers to sell me beer. And I usually went, "Where do you say you're from? London? No fucking way."
Yeah. Well, even in the early days, which we're going to touch on, the GLB relationship with you and the bar, even back in the early days, we weren't able to provide consistent, reliable delivery to London, Ontario on a weekly basis. And we were one of the, the mid-size even back then. So I can see where some of the smaller breweries would have had challenges with that.
Now forward 30 years,
and now forward,
it's still inconsistent.
Hey, well, no, at least it's weekly. So I don't know if you heard the Jen Tamsey episode that we recorded of Between Two Fermenters, but she's the director of beer and beverage at Charcoal Group, which is Beer Town.
Yeah.
Yep, and she got her start in London. We were talking a lot about London, but she developed her first real love of beer was at that location. Not Milos Craft Beer Emporium, but she was underage going in, and she would buy, like, her and her friends would buy quadruple, I think she said, but she couldn't remember which one, a Belgian beer. And it was like, lights on. This is the type of thing that I want to, get involved in. So you had a big Belgian influence at that point as well?
Well, I would like to state very clearly, we never served underage clients.
Oh, this is a long time ago.
Is it past the statute of limitation? Yeah, well, we had... that's what happened. First, what caught me was Belgium. And it was thanks to reading a couple books from Michael Jackson. And Belgian beer was... first that really intrigued me because it was so different from what anybody else was doing. I was fascinated by all the Abbey beers and Trappist beers and lambics.
So much story, so many, so complex, so diverse.
Tradition and uncompromising quality.
And really nothing like it in North America at that time.
No.
Yep. Well, you had an influence on her, and look where she's been to. So you developed that thirst, that love, 2000. You're reaching out to the OCB, trying to get their members to reach out to you. So you find yourself, this is all you know, the hospitality industry. You've gone down the rabbit hole. In 2012, you opened Milos Craft Beer Emporium.
Correct, it is.
Okay. Now, I went back because we had this relationship when we knew each other from before that time. But I remember reading something about you one time, and I had to go and search and try to find. So I did some serious research for this podcast. But this article I read, it was on the blog Sublime Imbibing. Sublime Imbibing. The blogger wrote, and I quote, "It's generally a point of contention in any city. What is the best place to grab a beer? But in London, it's no competition. If you're a patron of the pint, an imbiber of the brew, a connoisseur of craft, Milos' Craft Beer Emporium on the corner of Carling and Talbot Street is the only pub for you." 12 years later, does that still ring true?
Who is Sublime Imbiber?
I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I remember that blog.
Know,
it was a 12-year-old post. But 12 years looking back, listening to that, and 12 years later, does that ring true that it's still in London? It's the place to go if you want the best place to grab a beer.
Let's say I don't like these lists. It's all very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So are we best? Are we not? I'm not sure. But I can tell you one thing. Nobody has more passion and dedication to it than me and my staff. Everybody who works with me is 100% into beer. They're passionate and they want to share it with people. And
I was going to ask you if you were going to say, yeah, that still rings true to this day, 12 years later. Why is that? And tell me about why you think that's the case. But you just did. How do you get people, before we get into the actual pub, how do you get people that are that passionate? How do you find people in this marketplace that will show up each day to serve or to cook or to just talk about beer in general? How do you find those people?
Converting infidels, one beer at a time, buddy. No, listen, the beauty of growing up in different systems is they have different experiences. So I spent 29 years living under communism, which I think was perfect preparation to come to Canada. And I remember all these billboards we had, with USSR forever, and one of those was those who want to ignite must be ablaze. And it kind of stuck with me in plain English terms. How can I ask anybody to care if I don't give a shit? Mm-hmm. So I show up every day, and I show up every day. I care about what I do. I try to impart it on the people. And lo and behold, most people, eventually kind of sign up.
You care for your staff. I've seen you talk with your staff. I've seen you travel with your staff. You care about your staff.
I do. Well, everybody's important. I might have dreamt up all this stuff and, hope and work and beg people to sell me beer. But if everybody who works with me, if they don't care, we're nobody.
What's it all for? Yeah.
They're nobody. It's a teamwork.
So one of the things I like asking guests on the pod is to paint a picture for the listeners, for someone who has never stepped foot in the pub.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through what they would see upon entering and what they would experience once they were seated.
You walk in, you see place like any other, you experience good beer and you leave, and I hope you come back.
Okay, that's selling it pretty short, but when you walk in, what do you see? Paint the picture of what Milos Craft Beer Emporium is all about.
Okay, so when you walk in little foyer, if you look up on the wall, you will see current Cicerone beer server certificates for all the servers that work there, because we have very few rules and requirements, but one we do is that it's a condition of employment that within 3 months since after you start, you pass the test and become certified Cicerone beer server.
Okay.
So everybody who starts working for me, on the day we hire them, they get my favorite book from Randy Mosher called Tasting Beer.
Is that not an awesome book?
It's fantastic.
And they have the new version now too, the updated version. So
Well, everybody's getting new one then, like the new staff's
There
getting
you
new
go.
one. So that's that. So you walking, it's a comfy place with no TVs, no screaming music, people talking to each other actually.
just on that, I've heard you say this to me before when we're in there, that one of your favorite things about operating the pub, do you call it a pub or a bar?
Pub.
Pub, is the noise. And the
Yes.
noise is not music and TV, it's chatter. I've heard
Yes.
you say this to me before.
Yes.
So walk me through that. Why does that make you so happy?
How can it not?
Oh, I know why, but I'm telling you to tell me why.
Well, listen, I think that, and every other week, I think it's more and more relevant. We live in a world that's quite fractured, polarized. Seems like there is under either the disguise of forwarding us somewhere further, we are less and less tolerant to each other, and we really seem to refuse to talk to each other. So I try to create an oasis where if you want to get away from all of that, you come to my place. There is no TVs, so there is no news and there is no sportscasts, okay? So two things that people are willing to kill each other over is politics and sports. You remove that, you lower the volume of the music so it's a background noise that you can still recognize the song, but it's not loud enough so you can talk to each other. And what happens?
So
You gotta talk, and you can learn lots of things from talking to people.
are you trying to create? Do you think you have, or are you trying to create that European pub culture? We're in Canada. It seems like more the bar, the sports bar.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I would start with that. People sometimes would say, "Oh, you're a businessman, you're a bar owner." I said, "No. I am the publican."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is my own fucked up version of a local. A pub. So yeah, that's been very, very intentional, and it makes me very happy to see that people are connecting with it.
And you're located at, is it 420?
Yeah,
420 Talbot?
Yep.
And it's a corner. Was that on purpose to have the bar located on a corner? The pub?
No. So listen. When I bought the place, I had $1,500 in my pocket. So I really was not in position to tell anybody what except what I don't want. So after the first place that I ran for 11 years, I spent 5 years in another place down the street. And same as the first one, the owner told me that he would sell it to me, only to sell it to somebody else. So I got kicked out, or we got all kicked out, and I found this place. And
What was that place before?
it was called Chancy Smith, and then we renamed it to Gambrinus.
To Gumbrinas, yes. And I remember, I think that's where our paths really first crossed.
That's
as well.
where we met, I think, yeah.
So let's go back to tap curation. We were talking about it today earlier at the brewery. You taste a lot of bad beers. You taste a lot of good beers. You taste a lot of bad beers, so customers don't have to.
That's right.
How do you determine what goes on tap?
That's a good question. Well, either you have it or you don't.
Okay. But what are you looking for? Are you looking, do you have like I know you have 6 lager lines, but are you looking for particular styles? Are you looking for the values a brewery holds? Or what is it that you look for?
It is a mixture of many. Quality of beer.
I assume like price has to be involved.
Well, it's definitely, I never used to pay that much attention to it. Now I do, because it feels like it's getting harder and harder to actually stay open. So yeah, prices are important, but quality of the beer, and then I want to know where my beer comes from. So the brewery, the brewer, the owners, all of that comes in
sales
in
reps
place.
and
Absolutely. If I don't like you,
yeah,
you can have the best beer in Ontario.
yeah.
You're not gonna have it in my place.
And that's, I guess, the beautiful thing of owning your own spot. It's your rules.
It is. Having said that, I would put in disclaimer. It's not necessarily if you have personality that doesn't agree with me. It's more overall if I get the feeling from you that you're not such a good person.
Yeah.
That's to me it's the big. If you have the mentality of next big corporate giant and you don't give a shit about your own product, why do you ask me to care?
Well, it's going back to your line earlier in the episode about Molson and Labatt. You have to sell a certain threshold. You're just a number to them, where you're looking for someone that says thank you for ordering a keg or a case of beer from them. So I know your food program is awesome because I've ate there many times. I love it. Tell me about it's not just beer at Milos Craft Beer Emporium. Talk about the food.
Food? I think food is even better than the beer. No disrespect to you, fabulous brewers out there in Ontario. Listen, I am very fortunate that from the day we opened, we had really good food and good kitchen. And at present time, Alex, our chef, and so Alex been with us almost since the beginning. I think 2 months after we opened, he joined. He grew through the ranks, and he's been our chef now 5-6 years, and the food is better than ever, and it's a team effort. They all love what they do. Everything is made from scratch and fresh, and they cook whatever they want, and I think it shows.
And you stay out of the kitchen?
Except for the times when I go and wash dishes.
Yeah. You do everything while you're there?
I try not to, but sometimes you have no choice,
Well, I'm going to add that to my rapid fire questions, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. So what is your ultimate beer and food pairing?
Ultimate beer and food pairing?
Would you pick something from your own place, or?
I don't know. Where do you go with that, man? It's there is so many things.
Okay, well,
a really, really nice Indian curry, nice kick to it, and awesome IPA with it.
Okay. I can go with that.
You can?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
all right.
I see where you're coming from. All right, let's get into the GLB relationship. Because a lot of the things we talk...
Who's GLB?
Great Lakes Brewery.
Oh, yes.
Sir. There's a lot of things that we'll talk about in this segment that will touch points on Milos Craft Beer Emporium. So we'll keep that thread going. But we have a long relationship. So 2012, you opened the spot. What month was that? June?
June 2nd.
And by November 2012, we hosted one of the largest tap takeovers that Great Lakes ever had done to date. But before we got there, let's talk about the original draft system. So you got this place and the draft system was a mess and you needed a box.
Yeah, it was there was 11 lines. Was it 11, 13?
Let's go with 11.
And there was certain amounts of lines. I wanted more. Plus, the draft towers belong to Labatt's and Molson's, and who the fuck knows, anyways. But at that time, because we already had a relationship with Great Lakes, I was very fortunate that you guys had commissioned for me a little casket for 24 lines that
we had the stainless processors that we work with. They were able to you had said this is something that you're after, and you're
yes.
able to.
So let's say I didn't have any money, and it was thanks to you guys and Flying Monkeys who helped me with installing all of that, and
Yeah, a little shout out to our friend Sean who helped install that too, and
Sean and Peter Kyoto. They were honestly, it was priceless.
so we got that in. They helped install it. 23 lines, and in November of 2020 or in November of 2012, we did a complete tap takeover plus a cask, so that's 24.
Yeah.
Plus we had bottles of Dirtbag McQuag. So tell us, do you remember that night? Because I remember it like it was yesterday, mostly.
It's really hard to forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have ever seen a Lucky having so much fun.
Yeah. So we had talked about this in person earlier today. So we had talked about doing something to kind of commemorate you opening up the doors. And you came down to the brewery, and we were brewing on the 70-liter pilot system. And the goal was to have 7 or 8 beers.
That's right. Yeah, 7 or 8 one-offs, and the rest would be the regular core brands.
Now finish the story. What happened after that?
Well, we came down, me and Adil, who is now the co-owner and co-founder of Beer Lab, or soon to be Supply and Demand. And we brewed this lactose double IPA. I'm told I can't use the name, so we leave it out. So, while we were brewing, we were talking, and by the time it was around 4 o'clock, we were done brewing. We were up to 11 one-offs and 12 core brands. We went to check in a hotel and go back and meet Mike at Bryden's, walking around 7 o'clock, and Mike looks at me and says, you know what? Fuck the core brands. We're doing 23 one-offs. And that's what happened.
Yeah. And he was around that pilot system for weeks, just making sure we could brew, because that was a very, very labor-intensive system.
Yes, it was.
You had to pretty much stand or sit right beside that system. So come November 2012, we had enough beers. We got them there. We went down and we got them all ready. We had the tap handles all done. We had posters, everything. And that night was magical. We had brewers come.
And you had banners too, I remember.
Oh, we had banners up. That's right. We had banners outside, I think.
Troy came prepared.
And we had brewers like Ian McCustra, Erica, come in from Toronto. We had Ryan Morrow from, at the time, Nickelbrook. We had Bobo, who now is with Shortfinger, Jen Tams from Beertown, and we had all these people come to this. And there was people from Toronto that took the GO train, because this type of thing didn't really happen back then. And they took the GO train all the way to London, got a hotel room, and came to this tap takeover.
I think it was via train.
Or via, sure. I guess, yeah. There was no GO to London. Anyway.
Not at that time.
Not at that time. And it was a night to remember. It was a night to remember. And
I sure do remember most of it anyways.
But that wasn't the only collab we've ever done. We've done other collabs over the years. And I got asked, what's it like working with Lackey? You two seem to have a mutual admiration for each other.
You might be onto something.
Yeah. So what is it? What is it like working with them?
It's a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. That's nice and short.
Well,
we'll leave it.
What do I say? I think that one of the beauty of this industry, or like brewing, when you're brewing or brewing collab, is that you spend lots of time standing around and waiting, and it's a time to talk. And Mike is, when two like-minded people have time to talk, magic happens.
Yeah. And today you guys were just talking about his last trip to the Czech Republic, and you were talking about all the places you've been, beers you've tried, where to go for the best Pilsner or Quell. Lucky's, looking for recommendations, and so that was nice to see. Back in the day, you used to purchase GLB kegs, and we talked about the distribution not being the best back in the day, but you used to drive to the brewery. You would let us know that you're coming down. We'd have beer ready for you. Why did it mean so much in those early days for you to have GLB at the pub?
Well, for those of you out there, beer lovers, who don't remember, when I was driving down to pick up beers from Great Lakes, there was like 4 or 5 OGs on the scene, and Great Lakes, amongst few others, were on the pretty much cutting edge of developing beers and bringing beers to the market that nobody else was doing. That was a no-brainer to me.
Mm-hmm. But the dedication, so that's kind of touching on your passion and dedication to giving your customers the best beer choices in London, Ontario. We eventually were able to get down there every week, and so you could get, a bigger range of beers. But those days you would drive down, and that allowed us to create a better relationship as well. But I wanted to tell the story, and I was saying to you earlier that if you didn't come down and we couldn't get beer there, I remember putting 2 58-liter kegs in the back of the old Crazy Canuck K car, driving down the 401, and every single bump I would hit, the car would bottom out. And I was praying that I would make it to London without the tires blowing, just to have a beer when I got there. And I used to go to London to do that and then say, okay, well, I have the rest of the day to do sales calls, or I could sit down and talk to Milos. And so that's what I would end up doing. But it wasn't just...
Fatal mistake, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know how to shut up.
Yeah. But it wasn't just GLB that you would drive down. So you were instrumental in bringing other brands like Bellwoods and Indie Ale House and other brands that you could not get in London at the time. You would drive down and bring them back to London. And do you think that was one of the things that led to such a developing a good customer base, that they knew you were the place to go? Back to that quote from Sublime Imbibing.
It probably didn't hurt. It's say nobody wanted to come to London, and honestly, like when I started with all of this, the whole idea was to give a London beer drinker less need to leave town just to have a good beer.
And now look what's going on. When you opened that place, how many breweries were there in London?
Labatt. Outside of Labatt, nobody else. Now I think we have 11.
11.
Yeah.
So I know you're a pretty humble guy when it comes to this, but I think back to my point of doing more for the London craft scene than anyone since, really, John Labatt. You put London on the map for, here's Milos Craft Beer spot. People realize the craft beer can succeed in London, and now look what's happened.
There you go.
So
yeah, and John Labatt comes to me, in my sleep and says, "Atta boy."
I heard a rumor that you take a lot of money from them to put Bud Light on tap. So
I'm still waiting. I have the tap handle, I have the coupler. All I need is, little moolah.
AGCO, he's joking. Seriously.
I am not.
I can't let an interview with you go by without bringing up Halifax. I have to. We did, 2015. We did a multi-day, multi-location tap takeover, and for some reason, this crazy Czech guy flies all the way to Halifax to celebrate with us.
I'd like to meet him.
Why? Well, I got to ask. I don't think I've ever asked. Why did you do that? Why did you come to Halifax for that?
What do you mean? Why the fuck not?
We had a bunch of Toronto people and Great Lakes people, and then there's Milos in the back of the bar going, "Hey guys, I came for this," and and we spent 3 days just hanging out at all the different Halifax bars and drinking some great craft beer from Nova Scotia, and I always wondered why.
Well, two things. Honestly, I wanted to be there for you or experience you being out of province. and I wanted to sort of discover the Halifax beer scene.
Mm-hmm.
So why not?
And it was a great time, wasn't it?
I honestly, I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
And part of it is trying to stay sort of informed and in the know and see what's happening elsewhere so we can compare.
And I don't know if you remember, but we weren't able to steal the goat from Stubborn Goat. We tried.
We did not.
But we weren't successful. Now I have a couple questions from fans that wrote in. Okay, you ready for these?
I'm ready.
So during COVID, and you know where I'm going to go with this. During COVID, you did some pretty outlandish, pretty off the wall videos on social media to tell people about your daily specials. Why'd you take those away after COVID?
I didn't take them away. COVID kind of stopped, and I had to start working again.
So the question is, will you start doing those again?
I hope not. I don't want to see another pandemic like that in my lifetime.
Well, I'm not talking about that, but the videos were hilarious. So if you can walk us through what those videos were, what did you do in those videos?
I put smile on people's faces.
Did you dress up?
I did.
In different costumes?
I did.
And were they like bad infomercials from the 1980s?
Some of them.
And did you get a lot of comments?
I kind of did, yeah. Like it seems like we reached quite an audience with it. So listen, the whole idea, it started with my girlfriend Lisa says, you should make a little video just so people see your face and tell them what's going on. So I did 2 or 3. And then it was like, fuck this is boring, this doesn't make sense. And we had, these costumes at home. So I don't know which one was first, but I just put something on. And I think maybe it was the Bob and whatever, the
Bob and Doug or
doo-doo-doo-doo. And I went, yeah, that's the one. And so anyway, so we went with that, and I said, there is so much doom and gloom, and people are acting like there is no tomorrow. So I said, I just want to put smile on their face. And it stopped being about the specials, really. It was find something crazy and try to, yeah.
There's a bar in Toronto or a restaurant that every day at 4:00 they post their special.
Yeah.
Here's a picture. This is what you get, limited time. And all the customers know at 4:00 they're going to see this post from this. And I think people were looking forward to seeing what is Milos going to do next. So this isn't one of the fan questions, but this is my question. Did you have all those costumes? And if so, why did you have those costumes available?
Well, it wasn't CGI, Troy. So we had we had lots of them at home. And then
so you just
a
dress
couple
up
of our neighbor down the street, Cindy, lent me, I think, 2 of her tickle boxes. Okay. And then another one of my customers, Jason, lent me some more.
Amazing. So
and then I bought some more, and then
yeah. So where are they now? You know what you should do?
Back with the original owners.
You should frame some of the costumes and put them in the restaurant.
Who gives a shit about costumes?
So if you're wondering where you can find these videos, they're probably still up on your Instagram account.
Probably, yeah. Awesome. I don't know. I really
because it was fun.
It was fun. Listen, it was fun to do. I shot them all by myself. I edited them. I did voicing for it, title, whatever at the time. Yeah. So I learned how to edit videos, which was lots of fun. Yeah. But the whole process took probably every day between 2 and 3 hours. Yeah. I don't have 3 hours. Yeah. Like either I will run the pub or I will make videos. I can do both. Yeah.
You could be your own influencer.
Well, there is enough of those dumbasses out there.
So this is a question from Rhonda L. Rhonda Ale on Instagram. What is the best part of running a pub?
Meeting all the people.
Okay. Rhonda L also followed up with, what is the worst part of running a pub?
Meeting some of the people.
It seems like every question that we ask about that,
No, really.
that's the same thing as always, the people and people. Okay, we're going to go to an ad and we're going to come back with some rapid fire questions, take another sip, and we'll get right back at it. Hang tight.
Oh, shit. How am I doing?
Hey guys, it's Sadie here from Great Lakes Brewery with some really exciting news coming for you this summer. We're happy to announce that on August 24th, we're going to throw our first ever large-scale craft beer fest right here in beautiful South Etobicoke. It's called Brewed for You Fest with 20 plus breweries and cideries, some of our closest pals in the industry. We're excited to have Shannock Road doing an amazing Celtic rock set, as well as my personal favorite, a 90s throwback set by the band Discman. Brewed for You Fest here at Great Lakes Brewery on August 24th. Go to greatlakesbeer.com for details.
By the time you're hearing this, that festival has ended. We hope you had a great time. Thanks for coming out and supporting Great Lakes Brewery in the Brewed for You Festival. Okay, Milos, you're doing great. It's time for rapid fire questions. You ready for this? Yeah, take another drink.
Yeah,
there we go.
I had my sip. Go ahead.
What beer have you been enjoying recently, other than that fresh Sunnyside?
Godspeed, Klepnik.
I knew that. How was the event the other night you went to? The anniversary party.
Fantabulous.
Yeah. I saw pictures and I wish I could have been there with you. Name your hair changes all the time, but name your celebrity doppelganger.
That's a stupid question. I don't know.
You don't know?
Sorry, that's not stupid question. It's a stupid answer. I have no fucking clue.
Okay. I don't have one for you. I should have thought of one. Name a person in the industry that has or continues to inspire you.
Several. Ian McUstra.
Why?
Because he's just one of the nicest human beings, incredible professional, and all around gentleman and a scholar.
I couldn't agree more. Very good answer. Best time and place for a beer.
Right here, right now.
That's a song. Right here, right now.
There you go.
If you could only drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Something really good and cold.
No, you got to choose a beer.
I gotta choose a beer?
You got to choose a beer.
Well, Godspeed Sklepnik.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Budvar. No? Well, no, we can't see you shaking your head on the mic.
Can you hear this?
Favorite place to grab a beer in Toronto? This guy likes Godspeed. I'm going to guess he goes with Godspeed.
I don't go to Toronto often enough to drink beer, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd pick few. I've been recently to Left Field in Liberty Village.
Yep.
It was quite fun place.
Nice. Okay.
Something new to me.
All right. Favorite place to grab a beer in London, Ontario, other than Milos Craft Beer Emporium?
My backyard.
Okay. He's cheating. Favorite bar in the world?
Favorite bar in the world? Ebenezer's Pub.
Why?
Because it fucking rocks.
And last question. You've made it through this whole interview. What's the best hangover cure?
A cold beer.
3 for 3. We got that in a row. Okay. Milos, thanks for making your way to glorious Etobicoke for this and for collaborating on yet another beer, which, do we have a name for that?
I don't know. I think we settled maybe on Lipa 12.
Lipa.
Lipa.
Lipa 12. We'll tell you more about that beer in the coming weeks. Today's conversation was awesome, as I knew it would be. You have a lot of stories. I love hearing your stories, and we could sit for hours and just talk about where you've been, what you've experienced, and how you bring that back to your establishment in London. We just scratched the surface, and I look forward to having you back in the future to continue this conversation. On behalf of all breweries and brewery people in Ontario, thank you for all that you do to continue supporting the industry. And Na zdrowie?
Na zdraví.
Na zdrowie.
Or
So the Polish say
ciao.
na zdrowie. You say na
Na
zdrowie?
zdraví.
Na
Or we
zdrowie.
just say ciao.
Okay, let's do this. Ciao, na zdrowie.
Ciao.
Ciao. Thanks, Milos.
Thanks for having me.
At Bossa Nova, we have more than 400 products you won't find at the LCBO. Our craft beer comes from local faves and legendary producers like Driefonteinen, Bruton, and Hitachino. Our wines are the ones sommeliers bring into better restaurants, rarely available to take home. We have Basque cider, Normandy cider, Italian, Californian, as well as the finest from Ontario. Next door, relax and enjoy our outstanding selection in the newly opened Bar Bossa Nova. Bossa Nova in Roncesvalles Village. We've got a lot of stuff you're gonna love.
Cole's Notes. Now we're back with another installment with our man in the lab, Cole Raiscombs.
Thanks, Troy. Hi there. Welcome back to another Cole's Notes segment. Today I'm going to talk about what really goes on in the lab and why it's important for breweries to have a lab. You might think that quality assurance at a brewery involves sitting around drinking beer all day, but tasting the beer is actually a very small part of our job. As a broad overview, we test and monitor each beer from a physical, chemical, and biological perspective from the time it's brewed to months after it's been put in the can. With special techniques and some fancy pieces of equipment, we make sure the beer in your glass is safe and tasting as best as it can. One of our most important jobs is to monitor the fermentation health of our beer. This involves checking the gravity, pH, alcohol, percentage, and plating our beer on a variety of selective media to rule out contaminations from foreign yeast and bacteria. Gravity, which is the density of sugar in our wort, will lower gradually as the yeast converts sugar into alcohol. The rate at which the gravity changes, as well as the pH, are good indicators of the health of our yeast during fermentation. We also use a variety of agar plates with jello-like media, which help us rule out specific types of microbial contamination. We plate our beers 48 hours after fermentation has started, when the beer is sent to a bright tank, and in our cans to ensure nothing is going to make your beer sour. Another role we have is to monitor the integrity and cleanliness of everything in the brewery that the beer touches. This includes swabbing surfaces of tanks and the canning line to ensure they have been sanitized, monitoring the cans that the beer is put in, and checking the seams of the cans to ensure they are properly sealed. Finally, yes, we taste the beer. We have a variety of tools which we use to track data about each batch, including carbonation, appearance, flavor, aroma, and mouthfeel. We also are testing beers throughout the fermentation process, so if something's not quite right, we're able to catch it before it can make it into a can. We store cans from every single batch we package in something called a can library, which allows us to test batches even after they've sold out. These are just some examples of what goes on a daily basis behind the scenes in the brewery. Between R&D, optimization, and many tests, we always have our plates full. Who knew science could taste so good?
Thanks, Cole. Again, you always blow my mind.
Around the industry.
We're in the dog days of summer here in the craft brewing industry, but we still do have a couple of things to talk about in this Around the Industry segment. Back on August 7th, GLB and 20 plus other Ontario craft breweries descended upon Steam Whistle Brewery, the Roundhouse, to meet and greet members of the OCSA, the Ontario Convenience Store Association. Breweries were there to provide samples, talk pricing, introduce brands and people, and learn more about the C-Store channel with convenience owners and operators. The AGCO, LCBO were on hand to provide updates along with the OCB and answer questions from both breweries and convenience owners alike. And speaking of convenience, the first round of orders have been placed by approximately, you can get this, 3,600 stores right across the province. Breweries have been working on getting product out to these locations in order to be on shelves by September 5th. Reminder, you cannot buy beer at convenience stores until September 5th. However, breweries are shipping product to those stores so they can get them on the shelves. You can expect to see a lot of Octopus Wants to Fight and Canuck Pale Ale in these stores right across Ontario. Stay tuned. Moving over to some big brands, some big craft brands, Tilray brands purchased more Craft, and I say that with finger quotes. They purchased Hot Valley Brewing Co., Terrapin Beer Co., Revolver Brewing, and Atwater Brewing from Molson Coors. This was last week. This is after acquiring a number of brands from AB InBev back in 2023. So it'll be interesting to see what Tilray is doing with all these big American regional craft breweries. Shiloh Brewery in Ottawa, unfortunately, has posted on various social platforms about the brewery being available for purchase. The 10-barrel brewhouse and equipment has been listed at $750,000, and you can get more information at probrewer.com. That's it. That's all, folks. Episode 16 with Milos Kral has moved from the mash tun to the fermenters. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Milos and will plan to visit the always welcoming Milos Craft Beer Emporium soon. That's a lot of Milos's in one sentence. You'll likely run into Milos, there's another one, over a pint. And trust me, the conversation you'll likely engage in with him will be very memorable. Today's episode was fueled by cans of Great Lakes Lager and Sunnyside Session IPA, which you can find all over Ontario at the beer store, LCBO, grocery stores, and online at greatlakesbeershop.ca. You can visit the brewery at 30 Queen Elizabeth Boulevard in Etobicoke, or grab some delicious eats and fresh pours at our brew pub at 11 Lower Jarvis Street in Toronto. If you have any content you'd love to hear us discuss on the show, or just want to tell us what you're drinking, drop us a line at podcast@greatlakesbeer.com. Until next time, remember to keep tipping your glass of fresh GLB in the right direction. Supporting local never tasted so good.
To learn more about what's happening at Great Lakes Brewery, visit greatlakesbeer.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter, or follow Great Lakes Beer on your favorite social media platforms.